everyone. Thank you for joining us today in the 12th special lecture in the Progress and Prospects in Biology special webinar series. And thank you for continuously supporting us over these few months. I am Nandita and I will be your moderator for today's session by Shri Mohammad Abdul Gani. So before we begin, I would like to remind you that you can post your question in the YouTube chat box and we shall moderate them at the end of the lecture. And the feedback link will be provided in the chat box near the end of the session and will not be shared via email. So now I would request our mentor and convener of this series, Professor N.R.A. Banerjee, Department of Zoology, University of Calcutta, to welcome our speaker. So ma'am, over to you.
Thank you, Nandita. It is always a pleasure. And tonight it is more so because our speaker tonight is a student of the Department of Zoology, University of Calcutta, and from the same room. That is my lab. So I had inherited the room from Professor Omolesh Chaudhuri, whose direct student is our speaker tonight. And also tomorrow, Professor Shantanu Rai, who is going to speak, is also from the same lab. And we didn't plan this. It has just happened as a coincidence. And then the room had passed on to other luminaries in our department till I inherited it from Professor Buddhadev Manna, whom we have lost last week. I would like to pay my respects to my teachers, and with that, I would like to welcome a fellow zoologist from the department for our talk tonight, and a very warm welcome to all our viewers. Now, most of our viewers will be watching this show tonight live via our YouTube channel, and the talks are also archived at our website, which is www.ppbiology.wordpress.com. And the feedback link that is going to be shared with you at the end of the talk not only solicits your impression of the webinar, but also your suggestions how to improve it. So in our continuing Saturday special lectures, as our speaker tonight would also talk about, we try to bring to you prospects from a postgraduate degree in biosciences. And since our speaker tonight and I are both alumni of zoology, and our host tonight has a postgraduate degree in biotechnology. Nade, Nandita? Biotechnology. And
Yes, ma'am.
our
Yes.
host tonight, who is not visible on the screen, has a postgraduate degree in microbiology. And together we try to explore the potentials of how far and wide this can take us. So a very warm welcome to our speaker tonight. I would request Nandita to please introduce our speaker, and then we are all agog to hear your speech. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. So, a brief introduction of our speaker today. So, Shri Mohammad Abdul Gani is the WBCS executive and currently the special secretary under Government of West Bengal. Shri Gani did his MSc in Marine Sciences from University of Calcutta and was awarded with the NET scholarship as well. He has worked as the scholar in the Animal Physiology Laboratory of the Zoology Department of University of Calcutta from 1887 to 1990. He has been in the service since 1992 and served at various places in different capacities. The notable ones are: he was the Block Development Officer of Sakrel, Mednipur West and Namkhanna Bokkhali of South Chobbish Parganas. He was the Deputy Magistrate of Malda and Purulia and Sub-Divisional Magistrate of Jalpaiguri and Baraipur. He was also the professor in the Natural Disaster Management of the Administrative Training Institute of the Government of West Bengal, and also the writer of Government Manual on Disaster Management. So, sir, without any further ado, I would request you to please continue with the talk. So, over to you, sir.
Okay. Good evening to Professor Inare Banerjee and Madam Coordinator and all the viewers. It's a rare privilege on my part to to deliver this talk on disaster management in India and the institutional mechanism of disaster management. Now, to start with, I just want to share two, three basic informations. The basic information is like this, that we have our GDP to the tune of about 3 trillion around, 3 trillion around. And our effort of the country is to reach to the GDP, to, to, to achieve a level of GDP to the tune of 5 trillion within 2025. Now, the thing is that it has been estimated on an average 2% of the GDP every year is lost due to disasters, most of which are natural disasters, because of, most importantly, the earthquake, the landslide, the floods, the oceanic cyclones, and the similar kind, including pest infestation, drought, and so many and so forth. Now, the thing is that, yes, these are all the outcomes of the natural forces, and it's very difficult to control these natural forces directly. But since historical past, after the disaster, after such kind of calamities, the government machinery used to engage themselves in rescue, relief, and rehabilitation works. But since 90, it is because of the international interventions through the UN and other bodies of the UN, and the government of India is also the signatory of a number of agreements there, that the disaster management is gradually taking its shape since 1990 onwards. So, with this introduction, I would just share certain views of the disaster management concept, and particularly since it is a multidisciplinary subject, here the it is related with the physics of the environment, it is related with the chemistry of the environment, particularly the ecosystem of all possible all possibilities. It is related with the geography, it is related with everything, so it's a multidisciplinary issue. However, since the disasters are the sole responsibility of controlling and managing the disasters are with the government, so everybody of various walks of the society, particularly those who are from various institutions and are working together in one way or other to the service of the nation, should I think should know about the disaster management mechanisms and institutions engaged with it in the government, as because the government has the sole responsibility to manage it. So, this uh, talk, I will, instead of going into details of the individual disasters, which is a very technical issue, I will rather concentrate on the institutional mechanism that has been developed. With this, I am just starting the presentation. The presentation is, I hope everybody can see the
Yes, sir.
screen.
Yes, sir. It's
Everybody
visible.
can see the screen, disaster management and its institutional mechanisms in India. So if we see these colas, here different kinds of disastrous scenarios and the losses are the, say for instance, where the cursor is there, this is for the snowfall, this is earthquake, this is a cyclonic storm and consequent shipwreck, this is the lady who is wailing for losing all his family members or 7 8 family members during the tsunami of 2004. This is a tsunami, this is a tsunami wave, there is a flood. This is something very different from all other pictures. This is relating to a atom bomb explosion. So this is a collage. This brings the complete disruption and losses to the uh, natural activities, normal activities of the society, and the loss of human life and the resources. Now there are global trends. That global trends are very interesting. That the number of people affected by disasters are rising globally. This is very important. I will show certain uh, happenings of disasters in a uh, graphic form here in 2 3 slides afterwards. So the overall disasters are becoming less deadly. This is very important because more and more people are affected, but number of people dying is less. It is because of the human intervention, and then overall disasters are becoming more costly because human life loss is reducing in one side, whereas the loss of resources, that is the positives of the development, positive initiatives, endeavors of the development are being consumed. So that is becoming more important because at the beginning I have stated that about 2% of the GDP is being destroyed by the disasters of mostly natural disasters, and in some cases it is because of the accidents and the man-made disasters also. The poor countries like us, developing country, and even the poor countries are disproportionately affected by disaster consequences. It is because of certain uh, initiatives and interventions and the resources. You know very well that for the poor countries, because of the resources are limited, so the structures, institutional or the mechanisms in one side get less funded is in one side, and the other side there are there needs certain institutional development and capacity building for the people, and the uh, law law statutory provisions which are lagging behind in the poor countries, and the numbers of disasters are increasing in each year. That is very important. I am giving a very small example. During the last 2 decades, if we study the number of oceanic cyclonic weather formations in the Bay of Bengal and Arabian Sea, it has been increased to significantly more than 15 to 17%. In 2019, there were 13 number of cyclonic weather formations, which was totally uncommon because uh, this is a large comparing to what it had been 50 years behind. So this is the thing. You see, here is a picture of 2019, the natural disasters, and you can see it by seeing the picture that it is the equatorial region of the uh, equatorial region of the earth which is mostly affected. And if you look to India, here is the India, then you will see that in India different kinds of disasters. This is available. The source is the NatCat service is the source. Munich Ray is basically the organization. So anybody can see it because it is available in the public domain. This institution is providing this information. So from here only we can see what kind of disasters are affecting our country and the globally. And you see that the country India uh, is a country where maximum number of disasters so far is taking place or the happening or the affecting. This is in 2018 picture. It was published in 2019. So there is very little difference between the two pictures. So it is a common. It has become a common phenomenon. If you see that I told that number of people affected, this is like this. This is a picture from 2009, 1900 to 2009. So number of people affected is increasing, but the number of people dying is gradually becoming less. And overall costly it is because of the loss of the resources. That is a graphical presentation. And these are the poor countries in the Asia and Africa which are affected disproportionately, particularly in India and in China, because you see, in India and in China, the population density is very high. I can explain here a very interesting information that we are very satisfied that our per capita carbon footprint annually is about 2.5 to 2.8 tons per person per year. So that is the standard, and whereas we compare it with the America and other developed countries, where in America it is about 20-21 tons per person. But you see, if we consider the area concerned of the country, West Bengal, India, and that of the America, then America's size is much more, at least 7 times than India, and number of trees that acts as a carbon sink for the live carbon sink, I should say. Uh, there are more than 900 trees per person is there, whereas in our country it is not above 25, it is below 25 number of trees. So if we consider the per square kilometer release of uh, carbon or its equivalent, that is the carbon footprint per square kilometer, then we are in equivalent position with the America. So that is a different calculation that is to be looked into in that way. The poor countries, because of these kind of other forces and drivers, also facing the crisis. And technological disaster, yes, this is very important, because in case of technology, the accidents are taking place there. The biggest accident, very recent accident, you are well aware that after the lockdown, because of the unlocking starting point, there was an accident in Visakhapatnam chemical plant. Now, earlier, the biggest industrial accident was in Bhopal. Very few years back, there was an accident in Japan in the Fukushima Daiichi, and if you study this accident, then you will see that these technological disasters were because of certain failures, and where human failure is a big issue. In case of, you see, it is not a technological disaster, but in case of the Amri hospital fire of at least 2.5 years or 3 years back, if you study that, then you will see that it is because of the human behavioral lapse that resulted the death of a large number of patients who were admitted there. So these are the things. Now you see, what is disaster is something is to be explained a little bit. Now the best way in a system to explain the disaster is to take the definition of the Disaster Management Act, which has been like this. So basically, disaster is something evil star we regarded, or the fatalism kind of thing. But the thing is that the Disaster Management Act has defined a disaster as a catastrophe or a mishap or a calamity or grave occurrence in any area arising from natural or man-made causes. This is very important. One is natural, one is man-made causes, or by accidents or negligence, which results in substantial loss of life or human suffering. Where there is no loss of life, human sufferings or damage and or destruction of property. Sorry. I hope there is a technical error.
Yes, sir. Your slides are not visible now.
Now, I'm giving it. I'm giving it. Most probably, yes, yes, yes. Screen sharing. There was a small mistake, and as a result, that I hope it is coming now. It
Yeah,
is.
it's
Is,
coming.
is it coming now?
Yeah. It's coming. Yes, sir.
So this is the definition of disaster, and I'm sorry because of this is the definition, and so uh, in cases of no human loss or property loss, if the environment is degraded, then again it is a disaster. So these all areas have been covered under the under the definition of disaster. Why it is so? It is because that that we can regard it as a disaster and we can take appropriate measure to control it and in future to mitigate it. Now what is the certain basic things? There is something comes from certain kinds of hazards. Say for instance, if I want to build a house, and if in Calcutta there are specified and identified zones where the microseismic studies have been done by the IIT Kharagpur as well as other institutions also, and is available. So, on the basis of the nature of microseismic activity of that area of concern, if I do not take appropriate measures in design, then my building may face crisis during an earthquake. So risk is something which comes from a kind of natural force called hazards. In Bengali, we are popularly saying that apod, and the hazards has a component that expresses is that called vulnerability. Those people who has a vulnerability to a particular hazard or a building or a resource which has a vulnerability to a hazard, that vulnerability is the chances of getting affected or infected, whatever you call. Like you see, vulnerable. I am putting myself vulnerable if I do not go outside. If I go outside without wearing a mask properly, or if I take off my mask off and on during this pandemic season. So vulnerability increases if I do not wear a mask or if I do not wear a mask appropriately. Likewise, you see in the hazards, uh, vulnerability to the people are there, vulnerability to the resources might be there. So from hazards there is the risk of affected being affected, and then comes the vulnerability. So if we develop our capacity, then we can reduce the risk. The equation might be like this: hazards and vulnerability are if multiplied and divided by capacity, then we can calculate the risk. This is the way of calculating risk in an area for a particular kind of hazard or a multi-hazard. This is something which is used by the scientist in a very appropriate way. Say, for instance, the sensitivity of earthquake, or the sensitivity of a building for retrofitting, or something like the construction of a building in a hilly area where there is a probability of landslides, etc. And similar other calculations may be done. Now, the hazard profile, if we look into it, is we have a India is a country where about 40 million hectares, that is 12% of the land, is prone to floods and river erosion. This is very important. Again, you see, 58.6% of the land mass is prone to earthquakes of moderate to very high intensity. This is because of the, as you are well aware, the earthquake is because of the uh, forces of natural forces, I should say, plate movements and plate tectonics playing a big role. So that is there. And then about 7,500 kilometers of coastline is there, and above the of these, nearly 76% coastline is prone to cyclones and tsunamis. This is very important because you can recall the 2004 26 December tsunami. The tsunami wave was generated. There is a place near Indonesia called Banda H, and it reached to the Chennai coast about 173 minutes. That is almost 3 hours after. But unfortunately, we could not shift or evacuate our population, fisher village, etc., or we cannot check our people to go to the seashore because we had no idea that, and previously there was no history of tsunami in the Indian Ocean, and so there was the highest loss of life in India. So that is again a vulnerability. 68% of the cultivable area is vulnerable to drought. That is very important. And the hilly areas are there, which is nearly 15% of the landmass, and is also risk for landslides and avalanches. So that is these are the, apart from these, there is a vulnerability of nuclear, biological and chemical disasters, including and terrorism and other things which are related to human interventions, etc., like the serial bomb blast, etc. So one way or the other we have a vulnerability on natural counts as well as the human, super the man-made disasters. So that context, the hazards of India, if we can see it graphically, it is like this: earthquake, flood, cyclone, drought, or natural other like the landslides, avalanches. GLOF is glacial lake outburst flood. This takes place in the upper areas of the Himalayas, and at times the glacial lakes form, and if it bursts, then it becomes a very severe, I should say, severe disaster down the line. Sometimes it creates a new river kind of, or a water passage kind of thing. We have read in history, and the records also show, geological records also show that at one point of time, this Tista River, which used to flow southward, but after 1780s, there was an earthquake, and because of that only, the river changed its course, and it met with the Padma in the, and reached Bay of Bengal through the Padma. So this kind of thing. Then forest fire, you are well aware, forest fire is becoming very common nowadays. It is because of the summer temperature and man-made disasters, as we have told, road accident epidemics we are now facing since December 2019 in other parts of the world, and in India it is from the uh, 2020 January, and in Bengal we are experiencing it since March 2020, and we are well aware of it, how we are behaving, how our behavior has been changed, everything. So this is the examples. Now, as we have told, so vulnerability reduction is the basic issue, that the hazards will be there, how we can develop capacity in the people so that their vulnerability is reduced. So in that context, vulnerability is to whom it is, who are the most vulnerable and from what reason. This has been this has been prescribed by the UNDP. Who are vulnerable? The poor, informal workers, and the socially excluded, because they have less capacity, they have less options in their livelihoods. And then the women, the disabilities, the migrants, the minorities, the children, and the elderly also, and the youth, because they are facing a crisis because of the future probability is being lost. Nowadays, we are facing this kind of things very strongly, and sometimes the whole region or the community becomes vulnerable according to their geographical location. So what kind of vulnerability to what? That is related to the economic shocks, to the health shocks that we are experiencing, the natural disasters, the climate change, the industrial hazard. This is something, or something like called conflict or civil unrest, and it is because of the limited capabilities. It is because of the location, position in the society, or sensitive periods in the life cycle, or low social cohesion. This is very important because nowadays, with the development and specialization, we are putting ourselves in in places where we have very little horizontal connectivity with others. We there becomes there there becomes a big problem for the for joint action against the disastrous force, particularly for the localized action called the community based action. So vulnerability progress when the root causes are the limited access. This is very important. And then the dynamic pressure, that is the lack of local institution or capacity building. The more the local institutions are there, the more the vulnerability will be reduced if it works appropriately. So skilling of the people, that this is the way to behave during a disaster, is very important. So lack of institution increases, and there are micro forces also. And finally, unsafe conditions also increase. That the physical environment, that is dangerous location, the local economical issues are there, social relations are there, and the public actions and institutions are also very important. So these are working in a very complicated but interactive way to provide to generate vulnerability. So if we can address these at every level, including the rural and the urban setup or the peri-urban setup, or in the highest developed areas of the urban areas, where also the the hazards like fire hazards, etc., are putting us into trouble. So that could lead to the capacity development, and the vulnerability may be reduced. So this is the very important. Policies are there for building resilience, and that is what kind of policies. There are three basic areas of policy. One is preventing shocks. That means, say for instance, I'm giving a personal example. We 8 persons have a cooperative, and we got a plot in Newtown area of Calcutta, where we have constructed a residential unit, one unit residential building with 8 flats, one for each. The building has a height of about from ground to about 44 feet, 44 feet height, whereas uh, whereas the whereas the uh, pile length, that is the root of the building inside the earth, is about 64 feet. So think of that, 64 feet piling has been done to give stability to a building which will be only 44 feet from the ground level. So for preventing shocks, for any kind of hazards, we are to take appropriate measures. And then sometimes promoting the capabilities. You see, we are passing through a very disaster, we are passing through a pandemic, which is even after people are getting affected, but the number is gradually lessening. We are uh, almost, we have returned to our normal life, but with the addition of certain things, we are calling it as new normal. So this new normal is nothing but the promotion of capabilities. You think of, we are talking, I do not, in my front only the TV screen are there, but I do not know how many persons are seeing it, and in future how many persons will see it. but I am talking as if the persons are sitting in front of me. This is a this is the new normal that we have developed. So promotion of a capabilities of a different kind to cope with the situation. For every this is a pandemic. Think of the earthquake, think of the flood, think of certain other things. This capacity development, and there should be options for giving choice of livelihoods. The more we can give choices of livelihood, the more will be the preventing shocks, from which there are certain criteria like the climate change, like the early childhood development, like the natural disaster risk and the social cohesion. So these are the areas where from the shocks may, if it is not developed, then shocks may affect. So similarly, promoting capabilities, that universal provision of education in case of spreading the education, full employment, promotion of gender equality and group equality, responsive institutions, and disaster preparedness. These are the areas. And protecting choice, the social protection, job creation, building cohesion and competencies, tackling of the discrimination. All these are relating to that. So public policy, now we can shift to the public policy on disaster. We had no public policy till few years back. In fact, the word disaster was very uncommon. Only it came in, it entered into the books and reports of the Indian context only in 1989, and earlier we used to rather we are adept with the relief kind of thing, relief, rescue, and rehabilitation. So this is, we used to regard the calamities as the wrath of nature or anger of God or like that. But there is no comprehensive policies. But after the eye opener was, the first one was the International Decade for Natural Disaster Reduction, which was declared by the UN in 1989, and it was observed from 1991 to 2000. And also the simultaneous issues were the Earth Summit of Rio in 1992, June 1992, and during the 1990s, the reports of the IPCC and consequently the Kyoto Protocol of 1997 in the climate change issues. So there are a number of international issues, as well as there was another agreement, international agreement called the Yokohama Declaration on Safe Development, that was in 1994. So these developments in one side, climate change approach towards stopping the climate change in other side, and the policy formulation for disaster, that disaster management in the institution, development of the institution was central in 1990s. And in India, you see, we were not very much progressing from 1991 onwards. But after the Odisha super cyclone of 1990, 29th October, which was initially as per IMD's forecast was going to hit West Bengal, but somehow or other it hit the Odisha coast and destroyed 10 districts of Odisha on 29th October night. So how many people died? There is no standard statistics on that. However, the UNDP in its report of 19 and 2015 has accepted that about 10,000 people died, maybe more or less. Now the thing is this. After this devastating super cyclone to the tune of 245 kilometers per hour of cyclonic storm, and consequent wave splash, the government of and loss havoc loss, the government of India set up a committee, and the committee was under the uh, ex-secretary of the agriculture, Mr. J.C. Pond, which is regarded as the high-powered committee. This high-powered committee, yes, here are certain steps that I have already discussed. High-power committee of 1999, and Mr. J.C. Pond submitted its report in 2001. That report of the J.C. Pond, uh, J.C. Pond, there were certain suggestions. The suggestions were like this, that we should, in the country India, we should develop a organizational structure and institutional mechanisms for disaster management, and not from the context of relief, which takes place only after a calamity happens, but we should be considering that how we can check or how we can provide a kind of, I should say, shield for disastrous events in one way or the other. And they suggested four basic areas. One is culture of preparedness, that this kind of disaster in these areas may come. So hazard analysis of an area, of a geographical area, was linked to that for preparation of a preparedness plan. And then culture of quick response. So ultimately the response team, nowadays you are well aware of that NDRF, National Disaster Response Forces, are there, but the NDRF used to was not there earlier. It has been developed since 1900 to 2007, taking the Jawans from various paramilitary forces. Then the culture of prevention. Yes, this is disasters. We cannot stop disaster, but we can prevent certain disasters. And finally, the culture of strategic thinking. Yes, how we can develop our system so that the disasters, the effects of disasters may be reduced, or the people's vulnerability may be reduced, and the capacity of the people may be increased. Thereby, people will be more resilient to the disasters. And what I had stated at the very beginning, that the loss of resources to the tune of 2% of the GDP annually should be brought down. And for that matter, what are the legal frameworks uh, are to be developed. Now, on the basis of the uh, Pons committee, this is a standard proform. I have given it here because it involves a number of ministries of the government of India and the state government. However, the chart is like this, and the ultimate thing was that they suggested for a comprehensive act, and according to that, the act was formulated, that is Disaster Management Act, and it was placed before the parliament, which was passed. I'll be going to that, but another recommendation was there. Till 2001, the responsibility of disaster calamity was with the agricultural ministry, but the Jesipon committee suggested that it should be transferred to the Ministry of Home Affairs, and since 2002, it is under the Ministry of Home Affairs. And all state governments, the Department of Disaster Management was renamed from the Department of Relief, or rather Relief Department. It is because relief setup. It is because the disaster management is not only concerned with the relief rehabilitation, but also it is involved with the assessment of the, or rather assessment of the hazards and vulnerabilities of the population, and consequent initiatives for reduction of the vulnerability through development of capacity in various disasters, including resources. Say, for instance, uh, earthquake-resistant buildings, earthquake-resistant structures. That is nowadays very common. Even the Jila Parishad is also cannot pass a plan of a building more than G+2, or more than G+2, I should say. That is their limit. Beyond that, they should go for a counter they should go for a third party verification from the engineering institutions. And in West Bengal, likewise in different states in West Bengal, it is IIT Kharagpur, the NIT of Durgapur, the Jadavpur University, the IIEST, and Jalpaiguri Engineering College. These are the engineering colleges where from the third party verification of the design is also also counter guaranteed. Now, the state's aims of disaster management was to reduce or avoid possible loss that I have told. Now, the elements of the disaster management in the government setup we do is the vulnerability and risk assessment, then response plan we develop, and according to response plan we respond, and if the losses are there, how the people are rehabilitated, and the losses and structures are reconstructed. That is very important. And for that matter is something we do is called mitigation is preemptive action on the part of the government for reduction of the probable disasters. There are two kinds of mitigations that is very important. One is the structural, where we are thinking of doing structure. Say, for instance, you are well aware that a number of countries are building sea walls only to avoid storm surge. Then that is a mitigation structure. In our country also, in the coastal areas, we are building very building very strong, what we call the we are building very strong dikes, and at places sea walls to avoid this kind of storm surge. So disaster preparedness is one side, and then vulnerability and disaster preparedness, they have a common basis that we do in the government system. So vulnerability assessment is done through, and after that the planning and institutional, with the help of the institutional framework we develop the plan. So after the plan is developed, the how the information regarding the institutional framework will move from lowest level to the highest level is very important, and that is the information system and resource base, everything including warning systems are part of the assessment plan are made. And we at the government level, and with the help of the paramilitary forces, that is NDRF and other institutions, we do rehearsals. Institutions like this, say for instance, we are from the Baligan Science College, and by Baligan Science College, I had been at least many a times after my entering into job, I have visited there. There are certain limitations in the Baligan Science College regarding likewise the building, the rehearsals of the mock drills of disaster that should be done annually. This is an important issue. The Kolkata, in Calcutta, there is the electric supply company is there, Calcutta Electricity Supply Company, and in that company once we conducted from the Administrative Training Institute uh, mock drill or disasters, a fire mock drill and a earthquake mock drill. Likewise, the mock drills are done. So that is a rehearsal that how we are prepared for in case of disasters. Now, recovery and reconstruction, I have told. Now, that linking the disasters with development is the most important issue, and that is being integrated in various academic institutions, including the engineering, particularly because the engineering structures are nowadays very common, and nowadays everywhere we are using the engineering designs. So there are codes which has been developed, which is to be followed by the engineers in designing. That codes are on the basis of the what you call the seismic study and seismic vulnerability of zone concerned, the codes have been developed. So on the basis of these codes, the buildings are developed, and as a result the buildings get stability. So that is in one side. In the for the flood protections, etc., there are codes for that, and everywhere there are codes for that. And again, for the communities concerned, there are certain regulatory mechanisms that has been developed with the help of the I should say non-governmental organization. I'm giving one example. Because of the oceanic cyclone is nowadays becoming very common in the Bay of Bengal and the Indian Ocean. Sorry, Bay of Bengal and the Arabian Sea. Recently, we have, during the last 15 years, we have developed a number of multi-purpose cyclone shelters along the coastal areas, and each of the my cyclone shelter can house at least 3 to 4,000 people for 2 4 2 3 hours or more when evacuation do take place. So whenever uh, and the cyclone stressing cyclone tracking system by the IMD have been developed in such a precision manner that the that the probable time of landfall and the probable area of landfall is predicted almost uh, near to the 95% uh, conformity, and accordingly man and machineries are mobilized there, as well as evacuation from the place is being ordered and organized. You are well aware that in 1999 the Odisha super cyclone killed more than 10,000 people, but there in 2013 came a similar cyclone called cyclone Pilin or Philin, whatever you say. It could only kill 67 people. Then again, it was because of the storm surge, because almost 1 million people were evacuated in 2013, and that was during the Puja holidays in Bengal. So it's like that. If we can intervene, we can avoid big, uh, I should say, loss of human life, and resources are to be constructed so that it becomes resilient for the disasters. But human loss could be avoided. That I told at the very beginning, that number of people are affecting, gradually increasing number of people are affecting by disaster. However, the number of deaths are reducing. It is because of the human activity. So we have come almost to the end. There is a relationship between development, environment, and disaster management in a very network manner. Here is a small picture on that. These are the interacting forces. That is, the more we understand that, the more we will be able to institute effective disaster management system and mechanism in India. So that is a big objective, and the institutional mechanism that has been developed is like a national crisis management committee is there at the highest level under the cabinet secretary, and the state level we have this state level crisis management committee under the chief secretary, and at the district level also we are having the district magistrate at the head, as well as the chairperson and the Shabadipati as the co-chairperson of the district disaster management authority. The disaster management act, it is the provision in the disaster management act that has been uh, there, and with this it has been possible. So disaster management act has come into force uh, from 23rd December 2005 onwards, and it is in place. So under the disaster management act, at the union level we have this NDMA, National Disaster Management Authority. You know, the honorable prime minister is the chairperson of the NDMA, and there is one vice chairperson who is equivalent with a cabinet minister, and their basic objective is to coordinate with the states, that is the state disaster management authorities and district disaster management authorities, for developing appropriate infrastructure, manpower, and analysis of the hazards and consequent vulnerability reduction mechanisms in the Indian context. As well as the act provides the establishment of the National Institute of Disaster Management in Delhi and the National Disaster Response Force. I have discussed a little bit. It is a paramilitary force without any arm. And then the institutional mechanism is like this. There are four layers, that the union government, the state government, the district administration, and down the line the municipalities and panchayats. At the union level, there is National Disaster Management Authority and the Minister of Home Affairs do coordinate, and there is a National Executive Committee headed by the Home Secretary, and there is an institution for development of resource materials and training, capacity building, that is called the NIDM, and NDRF, that is the paramilitary force. At the state level, there is State Disaster Management Authority. Honorable Chief Minister is the chairperson, and there is the District Disaster Management Department, which is looking after the entire affairs of disaster management in the state, and the Chief Secretary, Honorable Chief Secretary, is there as the chair for the State Executive Committee. So it's a coordinated kind of thing, and at the time of disasters, every day, twice the committee meets, that the committee headed by the Chief Secretary or the committee headed by the Home Secretary at the union at the state level concerned meets twice even a day in case of severe emergencies, to decide the modus operandi for the disaster response. So there are certain nodal ministries, like the earthquake. For earthquake, it is the Ministry of Earth Sciences. For the flood, it has been determined that the Ministry of Water Resources. For the cyclone, it is the Indian Meteorological Department. For tsunami, it is the Ministry of Earth Science, because it develops only because of the earthquake. Then landslide is linked with the Ministry of Home Affairs, because the Home Affairs is basically the ministry which looks after the Himalayan range in a bigger way. Avalanches again for the Ministry of Defense, and drought and hailstorm, it is because of the, and pest attack, it is the Agriculture Ministry. Forest fire is with the environment. Nuclear disaster with the Department of Atomic Energy. Industrial and chemical disasters with the Ministry of Environment and Forest. Biological disasters like this pandemic is with the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. Rail accident is the Ministry of Railway. The road accident, Ministry of Road Transport or Surface Transport. And aviation accidents, it is because is the Ministry of Civil Aviation. Now the institutional mechanism of early warning system, who can disseminate, it is only the flood, for which the Ministry of Water Resource will issue the early warning. So whenever others are giving warning, particularly in the social media, that is not to be accepted, because that is not right. The cyclone, for cyclone IMD, for tsunami, it is the Earth Sciences which will issue the warning, and it will be transmitted through the All India Radio and other public media concert. So in case of tsunami, it is the earthquake, Earth Sciences. In case of drought, hailstorm, and pest attack, it is the Agriculture Department. So this is the, and in case of other emergencies, the National Center for Management of Crisis is there, and not the NDMA. It is there, like this terrorism, law and order situation, serial bomb blast, hijacking, air accidents, chemical and biological, radiological or nuclear attacks, mine disasters, ports and harbor emergencies, forest fires, sometimes oil field fires and oil spills. These are all looked into by the National Center for Management of Crisis. So these are all the institutional setup that has been developed, and I hope this will be there in the YouTube, and in future they will the anybody can see it. So these are the areas where we can, there are, this is the basic I should say entry point, where from we can, if we feel like that we should communicate something, or we should transmit some information to the appropriate authority, then this will help you all. So State Disaster Management Authority, as I have told, that it is the Honorable Chairperson, the CM, and District Disaster Management Authority is the district magistrate. So if anybody, officers concerned, since it is a responsibility of the government, so if anybody, officers concerned, do not obey their duties, or avoid the duties, there is a provision for punishment. So that way we have developed an institutional mechanism. So finance is also there. There is no problem, because there is a disaster response fund and the calamity response fund, which is available always with the state government and the union government. Because this fund is something which is not dependent upon any conditionalities. So these are the basic areas. I have completed the basic points. That in conclusion, I may say, like, this one two slides are there most probably. Yes, this one is very important. There are certain projects like cyclone risk mitigation project. Those who are with the uh, with, those who are with the I should say, those who are with the research institutions, they may give projects for cyclone study of cyclones and related issues, for cyclone formation, etc. So cyclone risk mitigation programs are there. Earthquake risk mitigation programs are there of the government of India, under the Ministry of Home Affairs. National School Safety is also again there, and then regional cooperation with the SAARC countries are also there, because disaster at times comes and there is no boundary for the disaster, so it's a transboundary kind of issue, and that's why. And ultimately, the thing is like this: the institutional mechanism, in short, at the base, there is the community, but these are the institutional setup. So this is all. And before ending it, I should conclude that yes, disasters will be there, and more frequency will increase. But if we prepare ourselves, if we give adequate uh, uh, adequate significance to the uh, hazard, natural hazards, as well as man-made hazards, and can develop our own plan at the lowest level, that is a community level, then to the state level, the district level, then to the state level, whatever, then we will be able to minimize the loss of life. That is more important. And then we'll be able to minimize the loss of resources. So with this, I should once again be very thankful to the to Professor NRI Banerjee ma'am. And i should I should uh, I should say that I hope I have tried my at my level to bring some idea about the disaster, um, which is a multidisciplinary one, because disaster issue may come from one or the other way, but the mechanisms for its control and the institutional mechanisms that have been developed is something which is within the union and the state level and the district level. So I should thank all, and I stop here. And I stop here. Now it is the coordinator, madam, to uh, conclude or whatever it is, or any question, please.
Yes,
Sorry,
thank you, sir.
I think I have taken more time, most probably. I'm sorry.
It's okay, sir. It's okay. Thank you for very interesting talk regarding the disaster management as well as the preparedness, awareing us for the preparedness. So there are few questions. So if you allow, we shall put them for you.
Yes, of course, of course.
Okay. So the first question is from Subhash Kanti Roy. He is asking that it is claimed by different groups of people that maximum disaster are man-made. So what is your opinion regarding that?
No, I should say it is, yes, man-made disasters are there, but it's not that way. maximum one is man-made, because natural forces are there. Sometimes we feel that it is because of the human lapses for quick response, or human lapses on other counts, that it has taken a bigger shape. However, natural forces are the biggest, I should say, biggest source of disasters. You see, in West Bengal, few days back, we in May 20, we suffered that Amphan. It is 187-kilometer speed cyclonic storm that hit Sagor Island. So it has devastated a very big way to the whole West Bengal that way. So I do not agree totally with that. Yes, we are showing some lapses in certain areas, but it is not the maximum disasters which are man-made. Anyway, next, ma'am.
Okay. So he is asking another question, that is there any relation between natural disaster and natural vector-borne diseases?
Of course, natural vector-borne diseases brings the disasters, the health disasters. That is, you see, there are a number of vector-borne diseases. Particularly, most important nowadays is becoming this swine flu. Swine flu is becoming very important. It is gradually uh, uh, garnering its strength. Likewise the what you call this malaria and other kinds of vector-borne diseases, isn't it? So that is very important. Swine flu is also invading large number of people, and in course of time it may take a very big shape. Please, next.
So the next question is from Prabhat Kumar Swain. He is asking that what are the new institutional mechanism of disaster management in India and how effective are they in real action?
Yes, sometimes people's experience might be a little bit sarcastic about the response mechanism of the government's institutions. Uh, However, the institutions that has been developed under the statutory provisions of the Disaster Management Act at the union level, I have told, that is the NDMA is the authority is there. Then Minister of Home Affairs do coordinate. At the state level, it is the state government's home department. State government's disaster management department, and at the district level, it is the district disaster management department authority. That is the district magistrate. And below that, you see the subdivisional officers are there. Below that, there is the block development officers. Below that, the local level panchayati raj institutions. Yes, sometimes we are not appropriately we are not appropriately strengthened to fight such kind of disasters the way we are to. Yes, there are lapses, but even after that, the scenario has changed since 1990 or early 80. I am saying this because I joined the service in 1990. So I am very clear what was there in 1990 and what is here in 2020. After 30 years, in this period, all these developments of institutional mechanisms have come into force. But the thing is that yes, we are in a positive direction, and we are developing and we are strengthening. The more the institutional mechanism, community is also very important here. But unfortunately, sometimes we feel that the community response is not very, I should say, very uh, very strong. If that is there, if the interaction between the community and the government authorities are there, then it will be more effective, I hope. Yes, please.
Okay, sir. So the last question is from Akashlina Marik. She is asking from your perspective how effective the management of COVID-19 has been in our state or country.
You see, this is a very critical question. I should say, at the very beginning, we were a little bit confused how to so far, since I am neither linked with the COVID-19 management, or I am neither COVID warrior in the sense of the term. But the thing is that at the very beginning, the institutional mechanisms could not could not appropriately equipped. It is because of the crisis in the necessary gears and necessary, I should say, necessary equipments. But as of now, if you see, yes, we have somehow or other we have accepted it that yes, corona virus or SARS-CoV-2 is there. It may affect. We have to take certain precautionary measures, but we have to go out. And as you are well aware, as of today, almost 98 lakh, that is almost a crore population in India has been affected. And you see, about say 95 lakh has been clear, has been relied. So about 3 lakh live population is there affected with corona. In case of West Bengal also, the number of people, see, if you take the stock of last 2 months, as of today, number of people coming out is more. However, the number of people who are affected daily is becoming less. So I should say it is gradually stabilized. Initially, there might be some hue and cry on different counts. However, including the uh, common people's response. I can recall a situation where the head of the family went to a relative's place, and when he came back home in Barakpur area, his wife did not allow him to enter into the home. He was directed by his wife to go to the ID hospital and get a certificate that you are not affected with corona. Now think of, this is a kind of reaction that we have seen. So, in one side, for the common people, because of the phantomized situation, we had a crisis. But ultimately, as of now, we are organized and we are trying our level best. And yes, there are deaths definitely, but in the all India context, if you look to the all India context and the global context, the number of deaths is only 1.15% of the people affected, which is very less. Yes, everybody is aware, everybody is getting taking appropriate precautions, and so it has been possible. It is not only the government's institution which do claim, but it is the people who also do take claim that they have appropriately cooperating with the institutions for bringing down such kind of infections to the bare minimum. And yes, there are certain corners, or there are certain areas where people are yet to accept these kinds of new normal. But even after that, it is gradually reducing, and I hope within a very short period of time it will be the disease COVID-19 will be like a influenza, which was there in 1918 19 as the the Spanish flu, and a very big killer. It will be like that. It will be very normalized one, like a common fever or like that, with some precautions. Okay, so it is not only the government, it is the people's participation and people's cooperation that has bring this result. Otherwise, it would not have been it would
Mhm.
not have not been possible. Okay.
Yeah.
Any more
Sure,
question?
sir. So, uh, no, sir, that was the last question. So, thank you for taking this question. So, now I would request our convener, Professor Enari Banerjee, to give the vote of thanks.
Thank you, Nandita, and thank you, Sri Goni, এত ভালো বললেন আপনি, মানে আমি বসে বসে শুনছিলাম। So, for our international audience, what he spoke about, our speaker, it not only pertains to the local crisis but also possibly globally. So, thank you for the talk. Coming back to the basic vision and mission of this platform, I would like to pose you a question, and that is, uh, I would request you to share your journey from a student, a postgraduate student of zoology from the department uh, to now. So that is my question number one, because a lot of our audience are undergraduate and postgraduate students. Then we have PhD scholars and postdoctoral fellows. Then there are young investigators and senior academics and non-academics also who attend the talk and the archive talks. So from your talk, the multidisciplinarity of things and the cross-disciplinary, the ability to traverse across disciplines is important for crisis management, for real life problem saving. So my question number two would pertain to that.
Okay, okay. Thank you, madam, for for allowing me to state something about myself. See, I had been a student of geology honors from City College, Calcutta, and I took admission. I'm sorry to tell you that it is not geology, it is the marine science, and we are the first batch students of marine science, which was started in that year in 1984, because in those days we had a lapse of about 1 year in starting the session, about 1 year. So there was a gap of 1 year. So I took admission in marine science. So I postgraduated in marine
So
science.
Professor Chaudhuri used to look after both departments
Yes, yes.
from the
He
room
was the
which
he
I
was the
now
first.
occupy.
Yes, he was the first
Founder,
head of the
right.
department. Now after passing my postgraduate, I I I I I I should say I was appointed as a junior research fellow in a project under Professor Robin Shood. I'm sorry to say he is no longer, but he had been a uh, very strong guide for me. So I was there from 1987 till 1990. Meanwhile, in 1989, I also qualified for the NET, and we had a very we had a publication in a prestigious journal. Myself, one Mr. Ipshit Chakraborty, he is now with the Dinabandhu Andrews College, and uh, and Korok Chaki
Andrews
is
College,
also,
that's right.
yeah, Korok Chaki sir was there, and another one, Mr. Kamlesh Mishra, he is no longer in the service, he is retired, but he had been with the BKC, I should say, there is a college there at Noihati College, Rishi Bonkim College, RBC,
Sure.
Rishi Bonkim Chandra College. So after that, in 1990, somehow or other, because job world was very critical in those days, and as I opted for marine science, so instead of going further, I entered into this West Bengal civil service in 1991. I got selected and joined in the service. Okay, now from then onwards the postings are there, but to be very frank, I had been throughout this year, I had been closely linked with the academicians, and that way I am, so far my profession is concerned, I should be regarded as an administrator, but I am neither an administrator in per se, or that way I am not an academician of the excellence that way, but I am a hybrid of that, and that's why I got a very unique chance of interacting with the administrative, particularly those academic administrators who have an academic bent of mind, and those who are academicians in the universities and the different colleges. And the disaster
Exactly. So that's why my question number two is the multidisciplinarity, the requirement of this, ease of traversing across disciplines. So,
yes.
from your work experience, from your trainings on the job, if you would like to share with the students, especially, and the early career investigators, that how aspects of different disciplines come into, especially your field of work.
No, that is what I am saying is the world of multidisciplinarity was opened before me only when I joined the Administrative Training Institute of the Government of West Bengal. It is basically an institute where the administrators, all India service officers, IAS, IPS, and the state civil service officers are brought after they are joining the service, are brought, and they are given the discourses on how the state government functions, how the union government functions, how the public system functions, because public system management is a very crucial issue. And there I was first appointed in the year 2003 as associate professor. And from there, we were in the disaster management unit, we are supposed to conduct disaster management short courses of 7 days, 6 days, particularly speaking, for the officers at the district level who are senior in capacity and who are managing the disasters. So then only I came across, because we do not have that much of faculty capabilities. So we mostly dependent upon the guest faculties, and the guest faculties from various, I should say, various walks of the scientific world. The Geological Survey of India, from the Botanical Survey of India, from the Zoological ZSI, Geological Survey of India, then from the Jadavpur University and various engineering
Right.
departments. Even one great personality was there, Professor Tarak Mohan Das. He was, when I was a probationer, he came and he addressed us about the environmental issues in the global context and the Indian context. So that way,
Right. So,
after,
for example, if today you see, especially in the context of the post-pandemic, poor economy and jobs are hard to come by. So, one also needs to tell the students, the future professionals, of various exercises by which they can add value to their existing skills. So,
exactly.
in terms of prospects of students of biological sciences, would you say a short training course, for example, where one gets glimpses from various disciplines, can better equip them for a future job?
Yes, you see, there is a small limitation. The Administrative Training Institute is basically cater the demand of the mandate is to cater the demand of the officers of the government. This is one. However, there are institutions. Say, for instance, we have a you are aware of that the Ramakrishna Mission Institute, Narendrapur, they have a agricultural university, and they are conducting a number of courses, particularly in the biological science orientation courses in one. And the Nimpit Ashram, they are also conducting courses, because it is with the agricultural ministry of the government of India. However, they are conducting courses. Say, for instance, tissue culture in the biological context, in the tissue culture and other. Sometimes it is relating to the advanced way of fish culture,
Right.
advanced way of fish
This is
culture.
an important information.
This kind of training they are organizing in a very with a very nominal fees, with a very nominal fees. So the
Right.
rural
But
development section.
even beyond that, what you mentioned, in course of your talk, what you mentioned, that it is not only the responsibility of the government but also responsibility of the citizenry to sort of rise to the occasion in case of a disaster. So what you mentioned during the course of your talk, that developing a different set of skills in when there is a shift of the paradigm is important.
Ex-
So
Exactly.
I would think that not only any kind of training is important for a job, but probably also as a step to preparing in being good citizens. So some
Oh,
kind of orientation, some kind of thinking, if we can empower some of the citizens who can in turn disperse such information amongst the masses, because unless there is awareness amongst the masses, just some government arms can hardly make a difference. So,
exactly.
from your talk, I think it was a very illuminating exercise that you came here tonight and shared with us your experiences. And we came to know a lot of the information actually that you gave is, so important. And I think it could be a form a ready reckoner for people to refer. Please.
I just want to respond 1 minute. You see, when I had been the professor of Administrative Training Institute, usually, you see, you are well aware that the university system has a human resource development center. We have Calcutta University with the Human Resource Development Center. One Professor Shatpati is in charge. In the Jadavpur University, their Human Resource Development Center here is at Salt Lake. The Bardwan University is their Human Resource Development Center, and the North Bengal University. These are the four universities where the Human Resource Development Centers are there, and they continuously organize multidisciplinary courses or the subject orientation courses and the disaster management specific courses for the college and university teachers for their or what we call this is a component part for their upgradation in the service. I hope you are aware of. I hope you are aware of. So I had been guest faculties, regular guest faculties for North Bengal University, for the Bardwan University, for the Jadavpur University on discounts. And I requested particularly Jadavpur University Vice Chancellor once, when the present Vice Chancellor was joined from Calcutta University immediately after that, and that way Professor Gopinath Bhandari of the Civil Engineering Department has has established with the help of the university's protocol, with the protocols of the university, there is a disaster management and awareness center.
Take it.
Uh, Not TAKIP. TAKIP is
Right.
different. TAKIP is different. The disaster management and awareness center, and they are
He
conducting.
got his initial funding from Take It, but built it. Yes, yes, it's an excellent resource that he has built.
So this is the way we are. At least I have interacted with at least few hundreds of college and university teachers on disaster management, because the A also UGC also has incorporated these disaster management 3 weeks disaster management course, which is compulsory for the college university teachers for their upgradation in this scale. The specific term is called most probably uh, the it's a promotion linked issue or the career promotion linked issue. So they are to got certain academic uh, API, academic point, or whatever you
Yes,
call.
yes, yes,
Yes, and
yes,
for that they
yes,
are,
yes.
when I was at ATI, I used to conduct for college teachers at least 6 days course for the 3 4 such courses annually, and the high school
Right.
teachers also, so that they can disseminate it to the students. So that is there, that horizontal transmission, and thereby interacting and developing the idea for creation, for 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 training on good citizens is important, and that is being done.
Absolutely. So, thank you for sharing your insights with us tonight, and thank you to our audience who continues to support us. We wish you the best uh, for continuing the work that you have been doing, And I thank Nandita and Shinjini for hosting and moderating our show tonight. So thank you and good night.
Good night to you all. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
So we can leave now. I hope, ma'am. We can leave now.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. So thank you, everyone. And please follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Our previous talks are archived in the YouTube channel, so you can check them out there. And please join us tomorrow again in our regular lecture by Professor Antanu Rai of Vishwabharati University. Thank you again for joining us. Take care and see you tomorrow again.